Alright, welcome to the season of Opulence discussion. Today we'll be discussing the Menagerie chest, we'll be talking about the raid, pinnacles for the season, and how PvP is this season. I am joined by Zeno and Spicy of our clan Noble Few. Alright, how are you guys today?
I'm doing great. You?
Doing solid.
Alright, doing solid. Alright, so let's talk about the Menagerie. Post or
Alright.
pre-patch.
So, the chest pre-patch was like easily the most broken thing in the game. It made their guns just available to everyone in the god rolls. So I understand why they patched it, but I'd much rather it be how it was. One open per run really isn't that good. It's like a 30 to 45 minute thing if you're not on a team of all 750s, and it's just not that good of a fun idea.
I agree. Also, this was the first time I believe in Destiny history that they gave us a chance to grind for what we wanted, instead of having to wait for specific nightfalls, resets for raid loot, and all these other things. And we could just put our runes in and grind what we want. I know that they could have went a different route with it. I feel like they could have just made it, 120 seconds instead of 300, or a lot shorter of a timer, to where we can only get 2 to 3 instead of like 8 to 9.
I feel like how they should have done it is the 3 clusters on it. Each rune just says shotgun, SMG, just each class basically, and then each rune that you slot will give you a separate reward for an open chest. So let's say that you have a shotgun rune in your top, a sniper in your left, and then a boots in your right. Whenever you open the chest, you'll get 1 shotgun, 1 sniper, and 1 boots random from the pool that they can drop from. And then that's your chest for the day. And then that's your 3 powerfuls if you have your Masterwork Chalice or whatever. And rather than having to unlock like specification runes or Masterwork runes, it'd be easier to roll like more at once, but you wouldn't have as much like specification, and would be a bit harder to get like really good god rolls.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think Dawn's idea would have, like, the nerf should have been like what Dalton said, just shorten the timer, and also like incorporate what you said as well. So shorten the timer and make sure that's a random loot pull from like the 3 runes. I think that would have been a better nerf than just like getting rid of it completely, even though I could see how it would be broken.
Alright, post-patch. Menagerie is dead.
Yeah, Menagerie really is dead. It's nowhere near rewarding enough. They need to make it drop, like, they could also just make it drop, like, enhancement cores on finish, random 25 planetary materials on finish. They just need to make it drop more on finish if they don't want us to get multiple things every time that we open it.
I do know whenever I was running Menagerie before the patch of the chest nerf that it was around 10 seconds to a queue if you were doing it by yourself, and now post-patch it's taken me upwards to 30 seconds to find a random team going into it by myself. And not to mention there's still the 300-second timer there. So, and a lot of players actually don't know that you can't run the chest multiple times. Like, I will complete the Menagerie and be about to leave, and I will still see players try and run around and open the chest multiple times. And at this point in the Menagerie, the only thing that people are running for is the Shadow title, where you need to do Heroic Menagerie and not die at the boss fights, or completing Mockery, Gauntlet, etc. with time left on the clock.
I mean, I understand why they gave us the 300 seconds, and it's because they're trying to let us explore the Menagerie and pick up any lore that we might not have been able to get in the encounters. But also, 300 seconds is way too much. Like, 120 seconds, 180 seconds, that would have been perfect. And on the note that it takes forever to find a game, I don't think I've queued for Menagerie more than 5 times after the patch. I haven't even done my Menagerie powerfuls this week, and I don't think I did them last week either. Like, once you're 750, those powerfuls don't really matter as much, but I'll still get my random powerfuls from activities that are worth running, like Strikes and Crucible. But when you have Menagerie that just isn't that rewarding, there's no real point. Because I already have my God Roll Beloved, I already have my God Roll Austringer, and I already have a God Roll Epicurean, the 3 guns that I'd ever need from that. So I already have a better shotgun than Imperial Decree, so I'm fine. I don't need anything else. And they really need to make a reason to go back into it.
Like one?
Yeah, I definitely do. I honestly do agree on like everything you said. I think in Shadowkeep they should definitely like fix the Menagerie, because right now it is really, really, really just unmotivating to even want to run it. I kind of forget it's in the game sometimes, just due to 1, the queues, 2, you can't really farm anything. It takes you probably about a day or 2 to even get probably a decent roll on a gun, unless you're extremely, extremely lucky. But I do definitely think that they should fix it in Shadowkeep.
Alright, so let's talk about the raid. Crown of Sorrows. First encounter. Alright, well
First
first
encounter.
let's do an overall. How do you feel about the raid in general?
It's fun.
I think this is a good raid. I feel like this is... Okay, so for context, I joined up on PC during Season of Opulence, but I played back on PS4 for the first expansion, or the entirety of D1 Year 1, other than Warmind. And this raid is definitely better than both Spire of Stars and Eater of Worlds, and probably Scourge of the Past. But I don't think it will ever be able to be better than Last Wish or Leviathan,
I agree with that.
like all DLC ones would be. If it's not a major DLC update, the raid probably isn't really gonna be the best raid. But I think this one sets probably the best precedent of any minor DLC addition. And it had a really good ratio to clears on day 1. So if you look at like Last Wish, there were 2 first 24-hour clears. And then if you look at Scourge, there were over like 3,000 or 4,000 day 1 clears, I think. But if you look at this one, there was a solid like 600 to 700 day 1 clears. And that's really balanced, because you don't want too many people clearing it, and you don't want too little people clearing it. But, I don't know, I feel like it was a really solid raid.
I definitely agree with what Spicy said there. I honestly do think it's a very solid raid. It really does incorporate like a lot of the mechanics that you see in a lot of like strikes and just overall playlists. I disagree with everything that Spicy said right there.
I agree as well. It is, in my opinion, one of the more fun raids compared to Eater World, Spire of Stars, and Scourge. It actually has people actually having to do something, instead of where in Scourge, just, okay, only 2 people have to make it to this part with their Sparrow. Alright, we can just all die, it's alright. Everybody actually has to be on their toes for this raid. Now let's get into the encounters. Encounter number 1.
Entrance encounter, I personally think, is the worst encounter in the entirety of the raid. And I'm going to say that it's worse than any encounter that we've gotten in any Year 2 raid. Just in D2 in general, not just Year 2. And the reason why I say this is because it's way too long. I liked it on day 1 streams because people died pretty quick, and that actually made it really intense because you couldn't run out of revive tokens, otherwise you had to restart, right? And that was really good for day 1 contest. But now when you have people 750 where dying is just, oh, the crystal spawned on me, oops, it's just unnecessarily way too long. They could remove, in all honesty, all they had to do is just remove 1 night phase, or just remove an entire cycle in general. Like, if the cycle was 2 nights ogre, that's a cycle, rather than having 3 nights and an ogre, or if it was just 3 waves of what it is now, it'd be so much better, because it's way too long as it currently is.
I agree with this because the first encounter, I believe you could finish the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the same amount of time that it takes you to finish the first one. If you're with a very good, competent team, the encounters after the first one definitely go by a lot faster, a lot smoother, and they're enjoyable. This one is just, okay, Knight's up, Ogre's up, Crystal's up, swap, and you do that for 4 times. And each time taking around 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes to complete. It's the first encounter takes 13 minutes in full, when you can finish the whole raid faster than just the first encounter. Like one?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, definitely. I think the one part of the first encounter that I probably hate the most is honestly just how big the entrance is. Even though it's part of the menagerie and like part of that area in the Leviathan, getting around, especially if you want to switch, you know. Fuck, bro, I can't do this. I can't do this with a brother in my room, dude.
Okay. Second encounter, crystals.
Okay, so I really like the idea of crystals. It's an interesting white mechanic. It reminds me a lot of the oracles back in Vault of Glass, and I think it's handled better than the oracles were, but I still think that it's probably one of my least favorite raid mechanics because it's not memorable. If you think Scourge of the Past, you instantly think 3 Radiances, and you have to make sure that you're not missing. And you always think of the Sparrow part of it. When I think of Crown of Sorrow, I think of a way too long opening section, and then a boss that got 1 phase day 1. It's just not memorable. But the jumping puzzle section is probably my favorite part of the raid, simply because it's more than just, oh, time to jump, okay, we're done. It actually makes you focus and actually do something instead of just jumping.
I agree, and I kind of disagree with you a little bit. It is memorable because if you run with different groups at a time, and let's see, and you have all these people that are trying to jump on the same particular platform, then it actually makes it pretty memorable because it's like, oh, who's gonna fall off? Who's gonna get to the crystal first? It feels like it's kind of a race between groups to who can actually make it to the enclosed crystal first. So then other guardians are getting sent flying to the wall because they're either Goomba stomped or just launched. And I've had a few memorable encounters at the jumping crystal part.
Yeah, the jumping crystal part is definitely my favorite part of the raid, just due to, like you said, just who's gonna fall off, who can get there first, you know, which 2 people, or like buff and non-buff, can get over there quick enough to break the crystal before everybody else. And if you really want to cheese someone, how fast can you knock someone off on purpose?
I agree. Alright, let's get into the final boss room with Galron's Deception.
Deception is easily my second, like, or not second, it's my second least favorite. I do not enjoy doing Deception. It feels like it goes on a little too long, but it's not horrible like the first encounter is. I don't enjoy Deception, it just feels tedious, but like I said, it's way better than the first encounter. The only reason why I like it being in the raid is because it teaches you a necessary mechanic for Galron's fight himself, and it also lets you get introduced to Galron's room, so you're not fumbling around on the part where it actually matters.
I agree. Galron's Deception, in my opinion, is the most strategic part of this raid. Strictly because you are cut off from your team until it's time to swap the buff and open up the wall. 2 people are stuck there, so if you die twice on one side, depending on who dies, it's possibly a wipe. You need to learn to stay on your toes, and you actually have to communicate with the teammate, ogres, wizards, and such. And this makes for, it is a tedious encounter, but at the same time, in my opinion, this encounter itself is the one that players kind of have the hardest time with, because if you can make it so Galron fight himself, everything is just easy. You can just chain well of Radiances and stay there, but in Galron's Deception, like, you're stuck by yourself for a good few minutes until you're able to get all the walls down and get to DPS time. And also, in this encounter, I've wiped way too many times because of the fact that if you're standing too close when Witch's Blessing and a non-Witch's Blessing melee him, it consumes a lot of people's blessing. And this is how the Anarchy strat was introduced. And now only one person has to sit in the back. And it kind of makes that part where it goes to DPS kind of boring, because you're just launching him around with grenade launchers. And sometimes he actually goes out of the map, and then that makes you have to wipe because he won't come back in. But for Galron's Deception, I give it a 5 out of 10, mainly because it's just not fun, but at the same time, it has to keep you on your toes.
I agree with what you said, Dalton. It is like, it's the most dynamic, I would say, out of all the encounters in the raid. It's just, you have to keep moving most of the time if you have Deception on your side, and also the communication has to be on point or you're most likely going to wipe. Also, dying on, that's just like, probably the one thing that I run into the most is that if I'm running with a group that I don't know, the communication lacks off and then everybody dies and we have to wipe like a couple of times. But yeah, I see what you mean though, I agree. Go on.
And Galron fight himself, this one is short and sweet. It combines everything that you have learned in this raid into one encounter, and in most raid groups, if you actually get to DPS, it's a one phase because of how strong grenade launchers are this season, and you can just sit at his feet and knock him around.
So, I really enjoy Galron. I think it's a lot of people's favorite encounter, and there is a minor problem with it though. He should not be able to be one-phased. If you look, you're not supposed to be able to one-phase raid bosses. Bungie always tries to make it to where at least you should two-phase, but they've just power creeped grenade launchers so unbelievably hard that he was being one-phased by 720 lights day one, and that's a major problem. Other than that, the encounter's really fun. It's my favorite encounter that actually has substance to it. It's really fun when you have a group of people who know what to do, and you get it done without wiping more than like twice, because it's rather quick. And I really like how they've taken every major element of all the other parts and combined them, like they do for most raids, but this one just seems to blend a lot better because the Witch's Curse and Witch's Blessing idea is really helpful because it just keeps you on your toes. You just have to go with it, but it also creates moments where, like, oh no, I lost my blessing, somebody needs to bless me now, but go break that crystal first. You have to learn how to prioritize, but it really works well.
Yeah, I honestly do agree with you. Like, on pretty much all subjects on the last encounter, the last encounter is probably like second favorite for me. The one part I don't like is, you should not be able to one-phase them at all. I think the grenade launchers are just fucking busted, and they really shouldn't be. Before, like, the actual buff of grenade launchers, like, rocket launchers were doing the most, and so were snipers, but they just fucking, slid grenade launchers into the top, thinking that it'd fucking make the game better, but it honestly just broke all the raids, and just made them way too easy. But I agree with you.
Pinnacles for Season of Opulence.
Before we move on, I
Okay.
wanted to say, I think that this new Crown of Sorrow is easily the most broken raid because of all the various cheeses. You have the Anarchy cheese on Galron's Deception to keep his shield down without people losing their blessing. You have the Crystal cheese with the mountaintop. You shoot the top of it, it breaks the crystal that are shielded even before you get there. You have the Galron hand cheese, where you Anarchy both of his hands and he keeps them down basically the entire time because of Anarchy. And I really think Bungie needed to take a little bit more testing before releasing the raid for some of these. And I understand that a lot of these situations are very hard to test, but I felt like they could have been a little bit more thorough so that way they could find these glitches and try to patch them before release date.
I agree with that. Let's move on to Pinnacles for Season of Opulence. Let's start with the Revoker. Now, the fact that this is not necessarily heavy PvP oriented, and the fact that you could win and lose at the same time and still gain your glory points for the weapon. I felt like 300 kills with a sniper and what is it, 50 headshots? I feel like that's a little lackluster. Because if you compare it to the Mountaintop, Mountaintop took way too long to finish. But at the same time, Recluse only had you get to 2100. And a lot of people are using snipers this season not only to get their Revoker, it's just really good at the moment. And I felt like 300 last hits and 50 headshots it's not enough. I felt like 1,000 last hits, or at least 500 maybe, and probably 150 headshots would have been good. Now the 3,500 Glory, on the other hand, you could win and lose, like I said, to get it. But at the same time, if you were higher up in the Glory ranks at the time you decided to go for this, it makes it a little hard to go for, having to earn 3,500 Glory points.
I like the direction that they took with the Glory over the 2100, because I am not the greatest PvP player, and I do not claim to be, but I feel like earning 3,500 Glory is a bit easier than getting to 2,100 for people with lower MMR and lower ELO ratings, because they can't solo queue carry their team all the way there. I feel like 50 headshot kills on the sniper rifle for Revoker was just too little. 150 probably would have been the right number there, but I feel like the 300 basic sniper rifle kills would have been more interesting if they made it 300 that weren't headshots. But again, that would have also been very annoying, because all you would have seen in Crucible for the next 2 months would have been his Nuggies burden and nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of the easier pinnacles of the season. I think the second easiest pinnacle would definitely be probably Oxygen. It's just second most easy, but I think Revoker, if you're really good, if you know what you're doing, it's probably the easiest pinnacle weapon out there. I agree with everything they said, but this season's pretty much, in my opinion, season of the sniper and grenade launchers pretty much. They're like the main focus of the season.
And the next pinnacle weapon we're going to talk about is the Wendigo, a grenade launcher that not only is really strong, but if you have a team that constantly gives you orbs, is even stronger. But in order to get this, you have to grind a lot of strikes. It's 1,500 kills with a grenade launcher and a lot of double kills. And if you're not doing the cheese, where if you get a strike on Mars or the Dreaming City, where you can go into the Blind Well or Escalation Protocol, I feel like this takes a really, really long time. And at the moment, with Tractor Cannon and Swarm of the Raven with Spike Nades being as strong as it is, I don't think Wendigo is able to keep up with that.
I mean, Wendigo is just the mountaintop of PvE. When you really think about it, it's an absurdly long grind for a really good gun. The only problem is that Mountaintop is currently unrivaled as the best primary weapon for PvE, other than maybe a 6-stack of Outbreak Prime. But Wendigo gets overshadowed, like you said, by Swarm of the Raven with Spike Grenades, simply because it fires faster. The Explosive Light perk is a really good idea. I really like what they did with it, because a lot of the time, if you're running Well of Radiance, or even like Hammers of Soul with Hallowfire Heart, you're not going to be casting your super very often, and seeing all those orbs just sitting there really isn't that good. But once you pick them up and make them buff your damage passively, it's really solid. But the problem with Wendigo, like I said, is it gets overshadowed by stuff like Swarm of the Raven. It's definitely the number 2 power weapon right now, but Swarm of the Raven is going to be the best until grenade launchers are nerfed. And once grenade launchers get nerfed, Wendigo's going to fall from grace.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially since now that we're expecting a nerf on grenade launchers in Shadowkeep, I'm pretty sure all grenade launchers are going to get a heavy nerf, but I really do want to know what weapon will probably get the nerf and come about on top on DPS. And honestly, on the subject of Wendigo, I'm pretty sure if you had the right setup, there's a couple grenade launchers that could probably out damage it, especially Swarm of the Raven with a cannon and a well. So I do agree with everything you said there.
And the last pinnacle weapon for the season, is Hush. And this is definitely a grind because it is a lot of bow kills, and bows are honestly just not that fun to use. They were a cool concept when Forsaken first launched. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to use a bow, it's going to be fun. But the fact that they're kind of lackluster in PvP, takes 2 shots unless you're using Le Monarchy with the poison. Bows are just not... They're in the middle. They're not good, but they're not bad at the same time. And they use primary ammo, which is good, so you don't ever pretty much have to worry about ammo, but the grind for Hush is just way too long.
There's a problem with bows right now, and it's that they're just garbage. Literally every other weapon is better than bows, and Hush came out at a time where bows are so absurdly weak that it's not even worth the grind. Because in all honesty, Hush sucks. Its perk is lackluster and hard to proc unless you're in PvE, and if you're in PvE, why are you using Hush? Even if you don't play Crucible, even if you don't grind for Recluse or Mountaintop, you have Breakneck because you've already grinded for it. Breakneck is so much easier than Hush, and is so much better than Hush, that Hush isn't necessary. I feel like if bows were stronger, if they were made into mini snipers essentially, where they can one-shot headshot but at a closer range in Crucible, Hush might end up having a place. But currently, the grind is so not worth it because bows just suck in general.
Yeah, bows kind of got slept on as a reason. They just came out at like you said, the absolute worst time when everything else in the game is pretty much at its peak. Bows, I would say, are pretty underrated, but they're, even if they're bad, they feel good, and I like the design of like how they look, and the perks aren't even bad at all. It's just those themselves just aren't keeping up with the average meta in pretty much any other game in the game.
Alright, and for our final topic for today, we have PvP for this season. Now, when we talk PvP, everybody automatically goes to Lord of Wolves and One-Eyed Masked Titans.
One-Eyed Ape, ook.
Because they currently run the Crucible. And if you combine Lord of Wolves with the One-Eyed Titan, it's free comp points, honestly. It needs to be stopped. Lord of Wolves is way too strong, being able to outgun every single super in the game with just one burst because of Release the Wolves. It is so strong at the moment, and it was slept on for so long. It's just, at the moment, it's way too insane, and it makes comp unplayable. And Lord of Wolves and One-Eyed Masked need to see a hard nerf in Shadowkeep if they're going to keep the Crucible alive and have people still want to play it.
I really, truly do not enjoy PvP that much. I can play it for a little bit, having fun, but I'm mostly a PvE player. But every time that I dip into Crucible, I see One-Eyed Apes everywhere, and I don't enjoy running around as my little warlock and getting obliterated by a One-Eyed Masked Titan using the point-and-click adventure gun and melting me regardless of what I'm doing. It's not a fun. It does not need to be in this game, and Bungie coming out and saying that Lord of Wolves isn't a big enough problem to warrant a nerf really scares me. I really think that Lord of Wolves is a bigger problem than One-Eyed Masked right now, and I'd love to see a nerf for both in any time soon, but I think that a Lord of Wolves nerf is necessary in Solstice of Heroes, whereas One-Eyed Masked can probably wait until Shadowkeep.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'd rather, I made a hunter because I didn't want to play warlock in PvP, and I popped Spluckades once and just get absolutely demolished by One-Eyed Masked. Lord of Wolves is absolutely terror. It's honestly, I don't understand why they made the Lord of Wolves so unbroken. It was slept on, and then they just released, hey, we're gonna buff it. I don't even think they buffed it. I think it just became the top of the line, this shotgun of the game. I honestly just hate it.
Alright, and your guys' opinions on the season overall. Season of Opulence.
I think Season of Opulence is a really good step in the right direction. Season of Drifter was a very boring season from what I've seen. Gambit Prime wasn't that good of an addition. I think that Gambit Prime's a bit more fun the normal Gambit, but right now it just doesn't have a place. You'll never see people running Reckoning, whereas you see people running Menagerie for fun. In comparison to Season of the Forge, I think Season of the Forge was better. And the only reason why I say that is because of its longevity. You still see people running forges for guns like Blast Furnace and stuff, but you don't see people running Menagerie after they get a good Austringer or a good Beloved. But I've still seen people with Godroll Blast Furnaces rolling for more Blast Furnaces just because they kind of enjoyed it. I like the Tribute Hall edition. That was fun. It gave a little grind section, even though it is just trying to empty our materials before Shadowkeep. I really enjoyed that. And overall, I'd say it's the second best season of the annual pass. But Season of the Forge just came out better. If Season of the Forge didn't come with a raid, I think I would have said Season of Opulence is better. But Season of the Forge is just too strong.
Yeah, I do definitely agree. Season of Opulence, I don't really see much, like, once you get the weapons and get, like, a good roll on them, I don't see people trying to go get them again, mainly because most of the gamers really aren't that fun. I like the Tribute Hall, mainly because Bad Juju is probably one of my favorite weapons out there, along with Outright, but when it comes to just overall, I think it's a pretty solid season. It could be better, just with a couple little tweaks, but overall, I think a solid 7 out of 10.
I agree. I would personally give it an 8 out of 10. The only other annual pass season that surpasses this one is, like you said, the Season of the Forge. That's only because it's a little bit harder to grind for the weapons there, but you can complete a bounty from Ada every week, get your ballistic log, and go grind your weapon. While at the same time, the Menagerie, you can clear probably 4 forges before Menagerie. That's with a bad team. A good Menagerie team probably gets it done the first 3 encounters after the lamp lighting. But I'm excited for Solstice Heroes. Hopefully it adds a little more life to the season. And then we have Shadowkeep coming up in just a few months, actually. But this has been Season of Opulence, and thank you guys for watching.